here we are. This is S.x Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
Book, Sex Priestess.
Mm-hmm.
To you, what does that mean? How would you define Sex Priestess for you?
Well, to me, it feels like the merging of all parts, sexuality and the spirituality. And that's really been my path and my journey, walking the path of Tantra, for the past 15 or so years, which is all about that. Like Tantra to me is merging all parts of ourselves, from the animal to the divine, from the dark, the light, masculine, feminine, coming to that union place. So for me, it's really that full circle coming home, and really, I'm not saying like I'm perfect right now, but I feel I have really gone on a journey from both sides. And I write about that in the book, blasting out, into the cosmos at such a young age, and then really having to integrate that experience over 10 years following, 10 plus years of really embodiment, like merging that spiritual energy with the sexual energy and coming into the body, the physical body. And so it's really, to me, it's the union of opposites. Sex priestess, like those two words together, sex priestess, you don't usually see two polar opposites in one sentence. So
yeah and I really want to emphasize that you were saying, you're not perfect, and this has also taken 10 years to cultivate. I think we can get caught up on these words of perfection because it's such a protective part of us, right? If I present as easy as possible to you, or if I present as desirable to you, then there's a safety in my connection, a preservation in my relationship. And yet, like you're saying, it's not about the perfection. It's about the integration of the wholeness of our humanity and all the dichotomies and all the the expressions. And that can only take years. We don't cultivate this in a weekend-long training. This is like something this is a life curriculum for you.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's like I never really set out, to teach this. It was just I had an experience. First was the sexual trauma at 14, at 6 years old, sorry.
Yeah.
And then 14 had this full-on mystical experience, where I blasted out, not taking any drugs, no psychedelics, nothing, just spontaneous. And from that, I was like, I just wanted to heal myself and figure out what the fuck happened to me. And so through that, it was like, okay, this is part of my life's work, of healing what has happened to me and learning the lessons along that way. And then it was kind of like I was resisting, teaching it for so long. I was just like, I don't want to, be one of those spiritual weirdos. Like I was really like judgmental of this whole world. And then, it was just more I resisted, the more it persisted. I'm like, and then it just cracked me, and I started to teach. And I think, and that's really the arc line of what I talk about in the book, is that the hero's journey, where it's like you go on the quest and then you eventually come home, and that being that symbol of whatever you've learned on your quest, like there is a kind of responsibility to share that in whatever way. It doesn't mean you have to become a teacher, but like it's not about just having all these experiences and then just keeping all the wisdom to ourselves. It's like, what do we do with that? Like, how can we create art out of that, or uplift humanity with that wisdom, that even just that little slither of wisdom that you got on your journey, So that's really where I'm at now, is the full integration, like coming home. And there's going to be another hero's journey. I feel it's not like there's just one. It's just this, we're always going through
Nadine's done. She did her hero's journey. Now she's going home. She's retiring. She's hanging out with her cats and dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to emphasize for people too, because how much pressure we get in this culture around having purpose or having, like doing something and making some grand effect on the world. But we forget that there's even meaningfulness in the small interactions that we have with somebody, or the drop of a wisdom or the drop of an insight that we have that may help somebody else.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to s.xlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on S.x Love Psychedelics.